Aiwa, tokutambirai pano pakanoiwa nyaya broadcast ndini sangwa dzispiwe kachidza mapfumo tabenuka nyasi takakunyepai tiri kugweda musi wemugovera tiri papart 2 yenyaya yedu yatanayo pano iyi yesingles game, what's going on in the singles department there. Saka ndadzoka nevarendo vedu vatakanyisinawo svondo yakapera. Aiwa, ndiri kuona nhasi vanhu vari kupinda zvakanaka pafacebook because last week we had a bit of a boo-boo there because yanga ichistream pa YouTube chete kwete pa Facebook. Aiwa, pindai bhai maita share and like and subscribe and share with other people. Mubva mamundopinda makawanda nyasi. Ndoda kuti muite zvatakanyepa zviye kuti mubatira iwe Faith Moro, Faith na Michelle na Alex motaura kuti muri kutiteera muri kupi. Aiwa, pano pane makuerere nhasi. Ndoda kukutambirai sekutaura kwandaita. Tiri kudaidza vanhu vese vari kwamutoko, kwakatsukunya, pamutoko, pamatownship, kumapurazi, kumavhurazi, kususwe, kumasara kufa, kusvika bhura, kusvika kubhodha uko. Vese matoko, pindai, newa vose vari kuEngland, vari kuSouth Africa, vari kuCanada, Toronto, kuNew York, mese tikudaidzai. Ndinokutendai ngekuti ndimi munogara kamuchitisapota every week. Program yenyu inonzwa neni sangwa dzispiwe kachidza mapfumo patinenge tichitaura nematopics akasiyana-siyana. Tiri kumboti mire tichiona kuti vanhu vapinde vari kutiteera. Nhasi ndauya nachenai kadungure tatinaye svondo yakapera achimirirawo kutsanangura kuti zviri kufamba sei kuarea yawo yemasingles. Zvekare nhasi ndina muzukuru wangu nhasi ari zviti ndoda kunzi guest Z. Okay, guest Z ari apa ari kutaurawo achimiririrawo kufunga kunoita vanhu vovarume kuti zviri kumbofamba sei panyaya dzedating game. Nyaya yedu changa iri yekuti what's going on in the singles, scenario yenyaya yedating, because panenge parikanika problem karipo, vakwadzi vari uko, varume vari uko, no one is dating anybody. Saka zvinofamba sei? Asi pamusana pekuti vanhu vakanga vachiteera vakawanda vakati nyaya yakapisa iyi, toida kuti tidzokorore because haina kupera svondo yakapera. Takagumira ipapo 1 hour yakangopera just like that. Nhasi timanga extend a little bit more, we might have 90 minutes yenyaya yekuti tisvike pamagumo. Vanenge vari kutiteera, tauriraiwo mwari kumawhatsapp kwenyu kuti vanhu pindai paFacebook, pana kanoita, pinda munyaya iyi yesvondo yakapera yatinoda kubva tapedzisa. Aiwa, nhasi ndinoda kumbotanga ndakuitirai kanews kari pano kezviri kuitika kwamutoko. Sezvatinogara tichiita mazuva ese kuti kana pane zvinenge zvichiitika kumusha kwedu ikoko tinombounzawo kanews dzedu ipapapa. Saka iyi yakatooma iyi ndakainzwawo naripota wangu akati regai ndikuitire news sangwadzi, tonzwa zviri zviri kuitika kwamutoko. Kana tapedza kudaro tochipinda mudariro, ndodaidzira varendo weduwa kuti watinyepo kuti ndiani, tupu yaonde, vanobva nekupi, vari kuita nezvei neighbor. Saka ngatimboitai news kwanhasi kwenguva inoyi. Mira timboona kuti zviri kufamba sei panapa. Munongoziva nyaya yetekinoloji, zvinomboita ameno kuti manguva. Ndinenge ndiri kuita kachallenge panapa. Tinozotaura news later. Ngatimbotangai nenyaya yedu iyi tozoita news kwekugumisira. Handitika zvakanakai. Asi ndine problem yeguest gamuchirai ari kuSouth Africa kuri kuita load shedding nhasi anditumira akati sangwadzi ndanga tichida kupinda asi tinenge tine load shedding between 10 and 12, so I'm not so sure. Asi ndamuti keep trying, you can come in, join us at any time yaunenge wakukwanisa kupinda. Asi ngatimbotangai, chenaipinda mudariro utaure kuti vanhu kuti ndiwe ani, uri kupi, nemutupo wako zvakare.
Ndinoitwa Chinai Kadungure, ndiri kuToronto, Canada. Ndine urombo kuti I'm just not on camera for the next 15 minutes ndoti ndichiri kufamba kuenda kumba. And ndinoyera mofu tiso ashawa.
Ndimwana shawa chaudi unzi ndiwe chera but ndimi wasikana wacho.
Takatovunzana tete kuti anati here tiriwo here takanazouza kuti aiwa mufunge hamuzi. Saka ndavagadzirisa ndaiudza vanhu ndiri chera asi ndakaziva kuti aiwa that's not the case. So fine. Yeah.
All good. Guest Z. Pinda utitaurira.
No, feel free to call me Tim. It's okay. So yeah, nditwa Tim here in Canada, Calgary. Tungosenza senzo tumotako mari samwe mabanki momwe chichichi no investments tumodadaro.
Okay. Mira ndione kuti muchaziwa last week tanga tina guest X anga asingade kutaura kuti ndiye ani asi ndiri kumudaidza kuti apinde akati ndinouya ndinenge ndirimo. Guest X tapinda mustudio, ungakwazise vanhu here ungotaura kuti ndiwe guest X wapinda. Oh, you know, just one moment. Okay, chitanga pfuti chiona.
Yep, this is Guest X. Happy to be here. No concern. Sorry, Paul, wherever you are. Don't know Zimbabwe, but that's about all you'll know for now. And looking forward to this chat.
Thank you. Waitako Guest X. Yeah. Ndiwo vanhu vedu awa sekutaura kwaita Chenai achapinda a little later because ari kutraveler, but she's going home. She should be in probably about 15 minutes. She'll be home so we can see her face. Now, nyaya yedu makainzwa last week yatisina kukwanisa kupedza. Last week we arrived at a few points Zakaitwa bring up by the guests who were here on what is going on in the dating scene within single. But it looked like last week my guests they were in the diaspora, most of them in diaspora, and in Canada, and guest X Ariku diaspora, and Diskutarot Arikupi, and Chennai Ariku Toronto, and Gamu was in South Africa. So at this point, I leave out people in Zimbabwe. I'm going to have another program where I'm going to look at this topic in Zimbabwe. What is going on in Zimbabwe? Are the challenges the same or they are different? I'm not sure what's going on. However, let me recoup what we came up with last week. What came up from this guest was that the dating scene, there's been an imbalance because of social media. We all agreed social media has really changed the way people are courting. Relationships have changed because of that. There's a larger pool of sex out there. Let's get to the point. And so for people to concentrate on really meaningful courtship as it was, as we know it, it's just not happening. It's not happening because whatever you want. Guest Z, I got to tell her, well, you know what? For a lot of guys, they want sex and it's out there. It's readily available. Guest X akatitaurira kuti tine problem because a lot of these relationships nema social media, nema DM, nema what, and I'm available for sex and whatever. It's causing a lot of trauma in people. That people's psyche has changed largely because of that. We discussed this at length. Now, I just want to put this on a different notch this week, because we can't just continue talking about it with dating. In normal circumstances, dating leads to marriages, right? And all these people who are talking of dating, they were talking of just having somebody to talk to, having fun time with the person, and hoping it can develop into something more meaningful, maybe a marriage and starting a family, etc., etc. Now, what I've decided to do is just to find out what's going on out in the men's department. What are they looking for when it comes to marriage? Because we don't want to stick to one point. We want to move it a notch up. Let's just say ultimately you are dating and you want to get married. What is it that they're looking for? I spoke to a guy, he's a hedge fund manager in New York, and he said, "Anspiwe Sangwadzi, let me tell you, we see all these women, and yes, Rakataurwa last week that team, what is it that you want, Mimi, as women?" And Gamu also said, "Well, what are you offering?" Those are very valid points. But he said, "I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of men, because he also has friends who are in the same." He is 46 years old. He's a hedge fund manager in New York. And he said, what men are looking for when they want to get married, they are looking for a pretty woman, aesthetically good looking, right? And they're looking for a woman childbearing age, because yes, we are looking at women who are between 20, maybe between 22 to about 45 as well, who are single and they're doing well. A lot of them, they got good education, they got professionals, and they're professionals on all that. Everything is going their way, but they can't find anybody to marry them. Why is that so? So this guy, hedge fund manager, we call him, Aganditi, the problem is because once you hit 40 and going up, you're competing with young people who are 22 up to 40. Saka, your chances, the pool is shrinking for you because you're getting older. Because what I'm looking for as a man, I'm looking for someone to get married to start a family. Kana wa 42, panenge pani ma question mark, because pama area yiko kuningo sisakwanisi, right? Don't jump at it. Just listen to what he says. Varume, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for beautiful women, young women who can produce. And we're looking for someone who can make a family, who can be a good housewife. And when he emphasized that when I say housewife, I'm not saying I don't want a wife who is a CEO or a lawyer or a doctor. No, I'm quite happy with that. As long as achikwana mu age group you're 22 to 30, 32, 33, maybe. Yeah, that's fine. But can I teach a good wife? I'm not gonna kuchengeta musha. Somebody who can say, these curtains don't look good, this house needs to be like that, and mumba say manager mumba. Even if you go to work, you don't have to do it yourself. I'll find you gonna polish out the floor. No, I'm looking for a wife. I'm not gonna manage that thing. If it is 2-3 maids, don't worry about that. That's why I'm a hedge fund manager. I'll provide that because I can afford to. But I need a woman anokwanisa. Kana tati kwenda kumusha this weekend. I want somebody look, here I want to get a gardener, you will provide a gardener. We need somebody Dr. garden ready to things like this. That's the kind of wife I want. I don't want a wife a flower pot, somebody who is just pretty but cannot manage a home. Then I spoke to another woman who said, "Oh, very good. I'm 42. I'm a lawyer, and did a good job. But I'm looking for a man. But the kind of man I'm looking for, probably a guy here. I'm thinking maybe age group hedge fund manager. However, what I'm looking for, and this could trigger somebody and several sugar mummies. What do they call it? Baby mummies. I'm not looking for somebody and my ex-children, ex-wives, and ex-this, because it's too much work for me. That's not what I'm looking for. At this age, yes, I might not be able to make babies, but what I am looking for, I'm looking for someone and good companionship. We can travel and do this, whatever we want to do. There is no problem, but akuna a baggage inonetsa, and that's what we're looking for. As for money, I've got my own money, and if he comes with money and he's willing to support me and do that, that's fine. Saka ndiri kuona kuti kana ndakudzoka kwamuri imimi maguests angu ari apa, what do you have to say about that? Ndoda kutanga naChenai, iwe Chenai, maybe uri age group yatiri kutaura iyoyo, where you've got everything going. You've got a fantastic job. You've got everything going. And dating scene is not working. But if we are going to move forward and say, you want to get married, what are you looking for? What kind of men are you looking for? What's in it for you? Pinda tonight.
And then it's about the way I relate to the person. I think all these lists are always nice for it's the ideal, right? Everyone has an ideal, but what God has for you in terms of what you need a lot of times looks very different. And so for me, I'd say I'm pretty fluid in terms of just general like aesthetic things. It'll be nice if he's educated and I can get, the intellectual conversation, because for me, I think that's an important part of attraction. And I think it's core that we share fundamentals. Like I said, for me, if the man is a Christian man and fully surrendered to God, that would
But what
be
does
a
that mean?
really
Hey, what does that mean? What do you mean fully surrendered? When you meet a guy, how do you measure with are fully surrendered? I
for
respect
me,
you.
it's there's a level of self-awareness and there's a humility about him that it comes from you having a humble heart, someone who understands that marriage is about mutual service, someone who's respectful, who's kind, right? I don't think that should be something that's out of this world. And I find when I even talk about a person with integrity, people be like, oh, you're looking for someone perfect. And so that's what's tragic to me. We're living in a time where integrity it's having that is considered being perfect. And so for me, I would love to see the culture shift, because it seems those bare minimums aren't there. Your person riddled off a list of just things that they don't say anything about the person's character. If the woman is cruel and she can do all those other things, it doesn't make sense, Antika. So I think it's more people are kind of ignoring the things about the personality, how you interact, how do you resolve conflict? Do you have a temper problem? Are you a person who's a serial philanderer? All these other things, because that's, to me, when we're looking at where the dysfunction is currently, I would say it's some of those aspects. Yeah.
But Kadawakuti, how dealing a conflict? It sounds like a job interview. It sounds like a job interview.
Well, no, that's what you find out when you're dating a person. And so I think that's the core of it. Dating is just getting to know if this person is a good fit for the long term, right? For marriage. And that's where you see my dynamics, such as Muniakata say, because there are a lot of people, great people, but they have a short fuse, or so it's something small, but when you're spending forever with the person, especially as we've seen with the pandemic, you are in a house with someone 24/7. Like you must gel personality wise, because everything else can be taken care of, but you still have to deal with each other. You still have to share a bed with this person.
Okay. X, yeah, okay. Can you chime in?
Yeah, no, I strongly agree on, part of what Chennai is talking about, where in dating, we definitely have to assess, part of the things is what I want, I'm looking for, what I'm willing to, sort of, I guess maybe live with, because no one's perfect, right? We don't all fit like a glove in everyone's scenario. And maybe there might be a conversation on what has changed as we are changing as individuals, especially in diaspora, where African sort of African cultural mindsets that we are finding don't really always fit Kanatikuno, right? So, for instance, if I'm meeting somebody, I'm putting my best foot forward, right? And I'm putting, okay, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I can, this is what I'm about, right? And then there's on the other end some level of expectation. Kuti, you should meet these things, right, for us to move ahead, right? And where I'm driving at with it is there's maybe there's been a strong shift on both sides. Men have evolved with all the things that we spoke about last time, technology, times, and place we are in. And at the same time, women have evolved. So our selection criteria to actually hit that benchmark is also not, is hard to achieve, right? For instance, Pengep started earlier on about my roles and responsibilities. It's a very big one. Kuti okay, and around the house. A small issue being who's going to do this, who's going to do that, not being defined at the start of a relationship, it causes huge problems, right? And that goes all the way to your finances, to everything, all these sort of things. For me, I think the bigger aspect with trying to find a partner is defining the hugest, like the big important things to me, but also being cognizant of what's on the ground. You know, like, okay, I can't be putting such a high expectation. So unless, you know, and I want to create my own human. I can't do that.
No.
I have to.
I hear you, but we are talking about the pool, as we said last weekend, that the pool is large right now, right? You're talking of women between 22 and 42. Hey, for God's sake, you're likely to find somebody there, because Wakawanda, it's a lot of women to choose from, right? And Chennai mentioned it last week. There are few guys for 7 women. So a better problem in terms of where you can choose, right?
Yes, and what I find though is, like I said, those expectations and the balance. And you know, there's my expectation. Am I the one cooking? Are we cooking together? Is she the one cooking? Like, you know, I then find Guti because I'm not, you know, maybe my personal experience, or maybe other people have it organized. I don't know, but I find Guti, with some of the women that I'm meeting, if it is set out as an expectation, Kuti, these are the roles that I'm expecting in my wife, or these are the responsibilities I'm expecting in my wife, and they come across, no, that is old-fashioned, that's African thinking, you know, that is not what I'm about. And then you're like, okay, how can I bridge Munandugu Chaga with me, my family unit, with the whole structure? Because it's a bigger picture. It's not just me. There are my parents involved in that selection process. There is, you know, relatives. There is, dare I say, cultural expectations, right? You know, and Trubusika, and you're the one who's cooking. I picked that one just because it's a low-hanging fruit. But, you know, it's like there's a discrepancy there. And if I date outside the African culture, you know, that's even a bigger risk, because has those cultural norms. And that's balance those two things.
That again is the topic for another weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah.
Guest Z, come in.
There's a lot to break down here, and I don't even know where to start. For me personally, I think there's always someone for someone out there. Everybody has their person in the world. The question is, how realistic are you about yourself, and how realistic are you about what you're looking for in terms of what you're supposed to get back in terms of the standards? However, I think if I look at myself right now and I was told what type of woman am I looking for to marry, definitely she has to be in the childbearing years, because I don't have any children of my own. So that's something that's important to me. To another man who maybe has been married before and has 5 kids, he can be looking for a second marriage. Maybe having children is not as important. So he can maybe marry a much older woman who's past those years, and that'll be okay. But I think if you look at generality of men, when we talk about the young professionals, as you mentioned, who are doing okay for themselves, I think by the fact that they're young, and if they're unmarried and no children, I think most men want to have a legacy of some form, because we're working all these years, accumulating all these assets, enjoying it. But when we pass on, who are we giving it to? So that becomes an important thing for us. And, you know, so we tend to lean towards women who have working safely, I think below the age of 35, before you get into geriatric pregnancies, right? So if one is planning to have 2 or 3 kids, you know, or if one to have 7 kids, you probably need a much younger wife than someone who wants to have 2 kids. So these things, they all play into account. But what attracts men to women is, and I think it's also important for us to understand this, when men look for women, we're looking for youth, we're also looking for beauty in women. And, you know, we're looking for feminism. You know, women that are female, like, you know, their behaviors are not tomboyish, or they're not aggressive, overly aggressive, you know, very, very, I think is the word they'll say in Shona, if I was to put it that way. And those things, they matter to us, you know, because it goes about to say, the type of environment that you can create. Can it be a happy home? Can it be a loving home? And these things cannot be done if either party is an extreme, an aggressive person, or an popota, or who doesn't who doesn't have their traumas and all those things in the past put together. So I think as a guy, those are things I seek from a woman. I necessarily don't seek a woman's profession. What does she accomplish professionally? What does she do for work? What are her degrees? What's her job? How much money does she make? Those things of very little relevance to me as a man, because they are nice to haves, but they're not the primary objective, right? Because that I want to put it that way. If those things happen to come along with the package, it's great.
Okay.
But it's to find, in society, pretty girls, even how educated or how little educated, they tend to always be married to the higher earning guys in society.
That's what hedge fund manager said. I did mention to you, I gave you those specs, so to speak, of what men are looking for in women they want to marry. Amongst those specs, he said, he did mention that I'm not saying that I don't want an intelligent woman. I actually enjoy conversation. It is smart. I do. But when it comes to sangwa dzimati ndikuda kuroora vakadzi vakaita se akataura zvaizvi zvataurwa nagesi kuti production yevana haudi geriatric wife because zvinozonesa because hauna vana, so that's different. Again, it has to be good looking, but he said CEO ndinomuda kana doctor kana lawyer ndinomuda, but kwandiri what's important to him was somebody anogona kumanage a house. And it's interesting because you're chiming the same point.
I'll definitely agree with him because I'm a traditional guy, a modern traditional guy to some extent. So I speak from a modern traditional perspective, right? And I understand there's some modern women and things have changed over time. We're living in a world where things are progressing, but I don't believe that me myself today. Because I'm living in the modern world, my experiences will negate thousands of years of my ancestors' doings. They did what they did for a reason. And some things I agree, they were a bit on the extreme side. This is where I become modern. Like the idea that the girl child is not educated. That's a poor perspective. You know what I mean? We need to educate all children equally. We need to give all our kids equal opportunity. But to say to me that we need to change roles in the household, whereas now, for example, we have, mom doing dad duties, dad doing mom duties. Yes, to survive in the Western world, that's important because we don't have help like maids and things of that nature. But I think within ourselves, we deeply need to know, like what guest X was saying, that there are certain roles that just come from being an African, being raised in a certain way. As a guy, you just know the car is a puncture. It's my wife's car. I need to go fix it.
Okay,
you don't even need to be asked.
I want to bring a modern woman, Chennai, come in because the men have been chiming in, and I see a lot of I'll read them later. But come in, Chennai. What do you have to say, responding to what X was saying and what guest Z said?
Me, I say people like what they like, but it goes back again to being realistic. I think last week, guest Z himself was talking about you need to adjust to what the market you're dealing with. And so for me, I find that Venn diagram of like the woman who's pretty well-to-do, whatever, and then she's also a homemaker, that usually those two don't go together. And like we said, the hedge fund managers like going out with the slay queens who are not trying to fit the what's called the traditional role a lot of the times, right? So for me, that's why I think there's that disconnect again. And part of it again is you're just looking at like what you get out of it. You're not sort of, I think there's a lot of that, not thinking about how do you connect with that person? Because even when, I think I liked when Steve Harvey or someone was saying, when you think of the person you want to be with, do they picture you, right? Just that simple thing of alignment, because clearly these people are getting to 46 and not finding what they're looking for. So
speak for yourself. That's not what hedge fund managers. He told me that and I could have gotten married when I was 30, but now I'm perfectly okay. It's not because the punish shortage of women. So it's not because he is 45 because he can't find anybody. Said no, I could get married to anybody anytime. So I wanted to point out, because he did mention that the problem we get with women, they think I'm 45 because I can't find anybody to marry, and that's not the point.
No, he's not settling. That's what I'm saying. He's not settling. He's looking for what he wants to look for. But it goes back again to what we're saying, Kuti. If the pool, what is happening in the pool, and what are the evolutions happening in the pool that might be not aligned with what you want? And a lot of the times there's something in the list, right? That there's a mismatch somewhere in your own list, number one. But also number two, how many 25-year-old women are looking to date the 46-year-old man? Because I think even at childbearing age, like, the 25-year-old has her own interests. And I remember being 25 and that was not, you know what I mean? Like 46-year-old guy, I'm like, no, that's too old, right? So I think there's a lot of these disconnects because of the fact that A, we're not evolving together, and B, I think a lot of it is, this is what I want. You're not thinking about, like, how are you adding value to the other person's life? Somewhere where we meet in the middle, and a lot of that I think is hurt people. And so if we actually start tapping more into, let's heal, like, our sort of anti whatever X idea, where is that coming from? The things that we've seen happen in the culture, like in the evolution, didn't come out of nowhere, right? People create culture. So if you're wanting to shift culture and be like, let's go back to the old traditional ways or whatever, who's actually saying that? How many women do you see pushing for that? Because that was a system in which they had nothing to gain. Again, like we say, if a person's already got everything that they need and they're only getting married because they want to have a child, as an example, now you can even have a child on your own. You don't even need a person. So
where are you referring to that they're getting married because they want a child? That's not what the fund manager said.
No, not the hedge fund manager. Now I'm talking about, like, the women, right? Because we're talking a lot about what the men are. But I'm saying, Kuti, for the women, marriage is about, okay, I want to be able to have a child and have a companion. And so that really shifts when you're sifting, right? That really shifts what you're also looking for. Because, like, again, like we said, it goes both ways, and we need to meet in the middle.
Can I chime in? I think, Chennai, you're onto something. In regards to saying, what do you offer the other person that you're trying to attract? I think that's a very, very valid point. But I think maybe we need to hear from you women what you're looking for in a man, so that we make sure that it's aligned. Because from a male perspective, I've told you what I seek, and I'm saying that my perspective is not the only perspective out there. Other men could be looking for women who are modern like yourself, who are go-getters, professionals, You know what I mean? There are guys like that. Let's be honest. There are guys like that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we also need to hear from women if you're speaking the language that men need to hear, because the idea of this is to correct each other where we're missing each other. Okay, so let's hear. So I want to hear from women's side. What are you looking for men? And we'll tell you if that's the language that men want to hear or not. And then vice versa. So that way, when we're out there and we're speaking, we start speaking each other's language. Because I think we want the same thing, but one is speaking Chinese, one is speaking English. Right,
the
so
problem,
marry?
The problem that I had, because when I spoke to my lawyer, my female lawyer friend, she is 42 and she's a lawyer. And so I guess she's not speaking for by 26, 27, 28, 30, what they are looking for. Because here she said, you know what, in that age group, she understood that a lot of men, they're always looking for younger women, right? And she definitely is not that younger woman anymore. She's 41 and she's accomplished and whatever, but she still needs companionship, and she doesn't want somebody baby mamas and whatever, and baby ex-children, ex-wives and whatever. She's quite clear that I don't want that. I want companionship, somebody I can talk to intelligently, same level with me. But I asked you, Iwewe, we all know that there's a shortage of men compared to women, yeah? Would you marry a guy who is not same educational level as yourself or professional level as yourself? And she said, yes. I remember, I think, guess Ziva last week, would you marry a guy who earns less than you? You did bring that up, right? Yeah, because ndakamubvunza ndikati, okay, would you marry a guy who is less than you are, less educational level as you? Would you marry him? And she said, yeah, I could, if kana tichigona kuita conversation naye, which makes go to what Chennai said, and a good conversation, he respects me, kana ari, akaita maybe trades, anobva kunogadzira matoilet ake anenge achiita iye sajanitor, what do they call it, plumber. Ouya kumba, and he fixes my car, like Tim says, washes my car, and we sit down, we have our drink, we talk about whatever level, whatever that we could discuss. That's fine, because my responsibilities are up. That's what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, Gami's not here because she would have been able to chime in for my age group yake, where my mid-20s going, yeah, what is it? Because hedge fund manager, you know what, Sangwadzi, the problem is a lot of women, they all want my 6-figure guys. But Tiriva Shoma, every woman wants a guy who earns that much money. Even kana iya achi earn more money. They want guys who are financially stable. Yeah, go.
Yeah, to me, it goes back to that thing. He's a hedge fund manager, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a certain lens and there's a certain type of woman he's exposed to because of where he's at in life. And that's why I say, in Kevin Samuel's logic, we're talking about 6 figures. There are very few women I know personally who'd ever even bring up the 6-figure conversation. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, yeah, if you're only talking to materialistic women, then that is the variable they're going to talk about, mm-hmm. right? And so for me, because people give me, the problem is, and then insert the other gender and whatever's going on there. And I'm like, no. We are just a generation that lacks empathy. We don't know how to just meet a person where they're at and say, oh, can I roll with that? Right? And so for me, I think that's where there's because there are a lot of people who can tick those. Again, I say the superficial list. You can meet a lot of people who tick that superficial. You can go networking and you'll be in a room full of people who tick it. But who's actually going to have a good 10-minute conversation with you? Because even like we said, social media is just a medium. The content, right, of what people are doing is still like personality showing up in different ways.
Chennai, can I chime in for a second? It's obviously you're a very different type of woman in comparison to the majority of women out there from the point you're to say if we were to take them for what they are to be. But do you honestly think that the majority of women out there think like you? Because if that was the case, slay queens, kind of windy chacha and slay queen wake. There wouldn't be, the idea of slaying wouldn't exist and wouldn't be as popular as it is.
But you said it yourself, slay queen. It doesn't connect, right?
I'm trying to say hypergamy, the idea that people are always women generally, hypergamy states that women want to marry up, right? In society, like you want to get a man who's a bigger provider, right? Not a man who's not a provider. And that by alone will say that, not necessarily 6 figures, but a man who's more comfortable, not comfortable, is more desirable. Is that fair to say?
It's fair.
I'm just saying, because for me, it sounds like we're now dismissing something that we've known for thousands of years, right? All women always want to get married to royalty. All women always want to get married to the top performing men. This was just something that is there today. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying there are no women like you. You're there. You're there.
She represents a certain demography. She does.
Yeah, you might be one of the kind, but also, I'm saying the majority.
So I'm saying there's
about the majority for a second.
No, but I would say even in Zimbabwe, the materialistic culture has evolved as the economy has been destroyed. Right? I don't. Yeah, because I know for a fact that
Tim guesses. Sorry, I enjoy these conversations, but you know what? X chime in. Then I'm going to read for you my comments because maybe that also could help us to formulate what we're saying here, right? Because it's a lot to unpack in one sitting. It goes there, and my opinions, and hedge fund akataura, lawyer akataura, Chennai is there, guest Zibla.
Can I add one point just quickly, please? Going back to hypergamy, the opposite is true for men. Me as a guy, I know there's a certain type of women I cannot afford. right? And I cannot afford them because if you think of the of Rihanna's or those things, those women have lots of attention for men who are significantly wealthier than me, billionaires, and they can buy them a house, buy them cars, just as gifts to give them to please them materialistically, again, right? So I know that I'm shooting in my range when I meet a girl, and I know that panning standard G, I know that you can no.
Yes, social media. When Rihanna, there was social media.
Right, but what are we South Africa kana mkanda maripo asikadza tinozova vari pane level yavo ndo za level yandokwana kuti mari yangu inoenderera kusvika apa mavacation angu anokwana apa kana musikaita zvepamberi kusvika ipapo usually those women are very pretty and there are men who have those kind of resources after them. But why can't we just admit the true, the same kuvakadzi kuti pane vamwe vakadzi vanodo varume chi vari pamusoro, just vice versa.
But I don't deny that. I'm saying majority is the... Yeah, majority is a lie. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Chime in.
Yeah, well, look, I think Mary, you should pattern something because that conversation starts from the first date to, let's move in together to what are we going, where are we going conversations. Even some conversations of what if it breaks down? How much is this going to cost my life? Because I think the first thing I noticed, Canada or wherever, where I traveled, Australia, wherever, is like, my divorce and their life was just destroyed. It's actually quite traumatizing to hear. So I think it's a very valid conversation from all angles of this, from this conversation. For me, it's, I think it's practical to find someone who you're transparent about your financial affairs from the get-go. You know what I mean? At the dating phase, you're showing a lifestyle that doesn't exist, and you're catching those, Instagram or materialistic individuals just purchasing problems for the next 25 years, if you even make it to 25 years.
I think it's a very valid point because, after the marriage, when we look at the statistics, how many of them lasted 20 years and my divorces, and they don't come cheap. They do not come cheap. They can really traumatize people for life. And our recycled husband, America, you have even a bigger challenge there because I think I stay so very pretty. I really enjoy her, but you don't know what's pabirap. No. So recycled husbands, they also have my issues, and they are in the pool. They are also, in the pool. Let me read my comments at which let me see. Okay, lately I've heard something that shocked me. We are now exclusive. I'm in a situationship. It's about mujolo. What does that all mean on the dating scene? This fluid element in relationship, what does it mean? Good, very valid question. Hold that kind of to muvunzo agozote. What about intelligent women? And what is it referring to? And so it goes, you can put a great woman in front of a man and he doesn't know what to do with her. So a dangerous statement there because from what I have heard, they sure know what to do. It depends with what gorgeous woman or this great woman in front. It depends what great is. Everything is relative. Then Michelle goes, you need to be earning the same to get that kind of man. Okay, I think she's referring with the, if you want a six-figure man, what are you bringing to the table? Because if you're a lowly worm and you want a hedge fund manager, but you could, from what I'm not looking for a woman with money. Yeah, you could still get married to a guy with a six-figure. If you're a good housekeeper and you're pretty, you're within the same age, and you can make babies, you can. So throw it out. You never know what you're gonna catch there. And Tendai, and a very interesting. A lot of women can accept men who earn less than them, but men suffer from inferiority complex, and the relationship won't work because of that. That is, men. What do you think? Z and X.
I think that last statement is a strong statement.
Let X do it. Z, you can come. Yeah. About this, Z.
Yeah.
Oh, X. So yeah, go.
Yeah, Yeah, can I go?
Yeah.
So I think what I've heard, and I think a lot of people have heard this, Kuti, men are intimidated by, a woman with, maybe high intelligence, high income status, and, I don't know how far this stereotype, sort of reflects what's on the ground. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to, right? Not to build a guy's ego. You want to build a house and a home.
Mm-hmm.
Saga, if I'm confronted with someone who has, more resources than I do, I'm not, in a point of, I'm less or whatever. No, I'm at a point of, do I connect with this person on an intellectual level? Do I connect with them on a passionate level? And are we keeping that mutual respect, going forward? I know with Zimbabwe, a lot of that, imbalance with the gender in marriages was, more prevalent in the last few years, like 10, 20 years, where we started to see families break down because of that. And you would see those conversations around that. And that was, something that stemmed from before our generation. Because there were other systemic problems before our generation that didn't recognize, equality or some level of equality between men and women, especially in the marriage union. And that was a big problem. But now when the Gasanganimkas was like, okay, she's a CEO and she's got her money, I'm aspiring to do whatever. As long as I'm putting my best foot forward, she's putting her best foot forward. I don't see how this reflects to any of my friends or myself, but it's actually a valid stereotype. Women, they should hold. If I'm more than a man, they won't approach me. I don't accept that.
I have spoken to a couple of guys who took that, really badly. That women, you're really crazy when you think you intimidate us. We're not intimidated. Just because we're not dating you doesn't mean I'm intimidated by you. And I was like, but then a lot of times you ask them, why are you not going out with this level of this kind of girl? And you just say, no, it's not my type. So women, they start thinking maybe you are not wanting to go with them because they have great jobs, they have made money, they have got a lot of properties, they've got this and that, and they feel that they're intimidated. And said, no, it's not intimidation. Maybe they just don't fit, and not because they're intimidated. Zoe here said the realistic truth is people don't know what they want. What they want anymore. We are confused generation that what we see on social media, we have we become selfish and use each other to get what we want. Maybe it's a point. Maybe it's a point.
Can I chime in on the last point? The one before this one, if I may. I think there are two types of people, from my experiences. There are the individuals who are inspired by someone's wealth, so that they then are pushed to say, how can I do better so I can get there? They befriend that person, they want to learn. They're inspired, they want to move ahead. And there are people who are intimidated or who are jealous of other people's wealth. When they see a wealthy person, they speak bad of that person, or they don't want to, they think, oh man, something's wrong. Why am I not like him? The jealousy rages. But I think when it comes to a woman making significantly more than a spouse, those relationships can work. I think they can work. I think where they fail to work is usually when the higher earning spouse, in a traditional household, then is no longer able to, feels like she's more superior or greater than a partner. Does that make sense? Because I think that sometimes the problem is that you make more money, then you feel like, but I'm taking care of things here. So then I get my way, I get my say, I get final say. And sometimes as men, we feel that energy. Whereas when you are the man usually and you're leading the income side of things in the household, you never tend to find, most men usually do not mistreat their wives. They'll take care of them, But the opposite, I find, at times it can be difficult if you're the wrong person.
Can I mention something?
Well, I've seen couples where it's worked, to be honest with you. But I've also seen couples where it's gone really, really bad. Right? Because all of a sudden, after a promotion, and she's making $25,000 more. Auto the murume japa nampakurira.
Pane imwe nyaya kuseri team. Let me
Yeah,
tell you. Usually
when
she mentioned something very important when we started, which you know what, there has to be a conversation where you have something in common here, and there's a certain amount of respect, and I think that's where it comes from. And you know, Ziva kuti, I can think back when I was growing up, where my mother had some friends. A woman who is a teacher and murume wake was a driver. Angangori driver. Because I mean, when you look at that, it's kind of lopsided, right? And because she was earning more, but they raised family waka champions and wakato champions and pekufa. But then things have shifted because like apa one okay, one to start with, one wawana kupiko varume wacho titodzokera panyaya yatambotanga yaiyeyo but takaona misal kuti unosangana naye kupi 6 figure men wacho watomboshaya wekuenda kudate naye saka 6 figure unozosvika ipapo kuti zvamuri kutaura zvokuti wazoenda more money uyazozika unosvika ikoko watombowana. But anyway, let's not go back to dating. Yeah, let's keep going. Who said who has the gold makes the rules? Or someone said who has the gold makes the rules? Well, I don't know. Life politics, it's not a question, it's just a statement, I suppose. Yeah, one might put it that way. But when it comes to relationship, paninyaya.
But I think also, like we say, there's something about role obsession. Because in the same way we're saying provider syndrome and all these things, we still are talking about superficial things. If you have money, tomorrow you can wake up and have no money. What are you then? If you have looks, tomorrow you get hit by a car, you don't have looks. What more then? Like, marriage is forever. And so I think there's a lot of other situations we're not even equipped to handle now, because we're kind of like, we're really caught up in a lot of superficial stuff.
It's a point, yes, but I mean, if you can't say I'm going to marry a person who is not attractive now, because anyway, can I ask 70, she won't be looking like that.
Yes, but that's why I say, it's why I say obsession is because there are people who on first meeting you're not attracted to, but you interact, you see them operating in a certain way, and you might grow feelings for them. But I think because of this like inflexibility that's there, where it's like this person must be meeting like stuff won't happen. I always say to my family, sorry, the person needs to have teeth. Like that's as far as I'm going. Like, you need to at least have teeth, right? But a lot of, like I say, for me, the attraction is personality, right? It's like I don't have like a type looks wise. I need to interact with certain.
Can I
for me, no, I have enough, so I don't.
So it doesn't matter if a guy is making $31,000 and likes Chennai and wants to to have a relationship with you. Does that matter?
Well, can he hold the conversation? Can he do all the other things I talked about? If he can, then yeah. Because I mean, I know a lot of people who are like, how many people have been having husbands or studying whatever, not bringing anything in? Like, that doesn't mean anything.
That's a fair point. I'm saying there are some women like you, Chennai, but I think you're a subset of the women, of the majority of women, because you do all for yourself, etc. But if we look at other women in general, I don't know. I just feel like from my own experiences as a guy I've dated in the past, I'm still dating. I do find these conversations are challenging, because it means that when you're going out to the restaurant, you're grabbing the bill almost 100% of the time. As Chennai, it means that when you're in the Uber, you're grabbing the bill. When you go to the whatever you're doing as a couple, vacation, you're grabbing the majority of the bill. So that conversation, it almost becomes like, it's a challenge, I find, for both parties, men and women. Some men will feel like, they did a 50-50. And some women don't believe in 50-50 because they're traditional. They've seen their moms, their dads take care of the moms growing up 100% of the time. So too, I think.
So also two things on that. Number one, we've already said women far outnumber men. So whatever you observe is always going to be just a subset of women. It'll never be the majority. Right? So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to tell a quick story. I remember my dad had an acquaintance when he was in varsity. We're just going to call him Charles. I don't remember what the guy's name was.
Uncle's name was.
Like random. But anyway, so Charles got married the first time, and he married what I guess would have been someone who's a slay queen, like someone was looking for something more transactional, but he loved this person, right? She cheated on him. They divorced. Charles was heartbroken. His buddies consoled him. He married a second time. She cheated. This person cheated. They divorced. He was shattered. After Charles's the third marriage was destroyed, he drank cyanide. And so for me, I always wonder, because in a lot of these interactions, there are a lot of people who are having Charles moments where you keep attracting a certain type of person. Mm-hmm. And instead of trying to evolve in a way that this person is not your standard, and you now have discernment to see, X doesn't work, that evolution kind of doesn't happen, and you're consistently in situations with a certain type of person. And again, I think because culturally we don't, the self-awareness thing, we don't want any introspection. We don't want to have what am I doing, or where am I, getting mixed up, that these type of women keep showing up in my life.
Well, and also, Chennai, I don't want to speak ill of those who are gone. And we don't know whether Charles had issues which he never really rectified. Why is it that he kept attracting those slay queens who were cheaters and whatever? So again, we don't know. They're all different. I don't know what's happening with X. What's going PPP with
network?
Your point, Chennai, is a very valid point. Sometimes as humans, we attract what we attract, and we need to change tactics or change the way we're moving, right? And that's fair. I totally agree with you. But also sometimes we also have to understand, Kuti, there are certain environments that one just ends up in because of their regular life, right? So if you look at the average person, after work, you might do drinks, head to the gym, come home, sleep. Weekends, you might go to that buddy's house. And because that's a regular life, that's how you meet people in person. You might try online dating and maybe give that a shot. But there are some guys who are trying to, like usually men, they want to get a girl that's so pretty that it's out of their league. And they feel like they've moved up from a league, right? And that's when they usually just end up catching the low-hanging fruit. That's probably not the best fruit sometimes, which could be the women that Charles had experiences with. And the inverse is also true, right? Sometimes women can have very good men at their level, but because they also want to date out of their league and go up a class in terms of income, in terms of a man that can provide better, they go out there and they find an abusive man or a man who does things the wrong way. And now they're pulling in more problems. But if they just married the guy who's an average guy, makes average money, who's a happy guy, they might have been much happier. And
abusive people are in all classes. I don't think
I have to say to you,
I'm just saying sometimes, I guess my point
Chennai and Z, thanks. Can you let's have X? Try please.
It's a two-way street. That's my summary.
It is. X.
Yeah, no, thank you for I was enjoying this part. I just want to bring everyone back to one of the comments that you read. I think it was someone saying that people don't know what they want. And I wanted to echo that, in one way or the other, we touched on it, but I think it's not knowing what we want, but we don't know what works anymore. The challenge and the risk of making a mistake at where we are right now is just much bigger. Picking the wrong person or, missing something and trying to understand somebody, and then you're with, that person in marriage with financial consequences for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So I want to echo that there is a big part that I feel lack of just knowledge of what we should be looking for individually. Yeah, there is the love aspect. And Chennai, I totally hear you on the love, and I love it. But I also say that there's TV, romanticism of relationships. Then there is
mere mortals.
And the differentiation is, when you're in a relationship and, those money discrepancies or power dynamics are an issue, they start to reflect in, your day-to-day, right? Or on a trip or pay for something or honor his side of the financial agreements that you have. Those are stressful things impacting you above all your daily things. So, should we be negating the fact that, okay, you need someone and some basic form of income and education? I think it's a dangerous thing.
It is.
Diaspora is not forgiving. Kana usina, that capacity to go and, support the family, you're pulling down the family. And you feel it every month when the bills are coming. Right?
In fact, you're pulling yourself down because you're setting your standards a bit too high, then you can really, and it escalates. Pane nyaya imwe yandinoda kutaura panapa. Because before I come to this day, I talk to a lot of people, young people, age group dzenyu idzo dzine younger and vamwe older and whatever, kuti ndinzwa kuti chichiri kuitika musini iyoyi hangu ndakura, so I can't, ndine a group rangu rine ma-issues ayo. And so I was talking to this young fella, and he said, but I'm spirit. I want, sometimes I think vakadzi mimi, you want to be traditional, but then muchida kuita uslave foot on the other side. Akandipa scenario yekuti musikana anouya kumba kwangu, anogara kwa apartment. She comes to my apartment kumba kwangu because he has a house. Yeah, anouya, and you because musoro mangu, I always expect mukadzi akawe, they like to cook and doing things like that, and she doesn't offer to. There's no problem because he likes cooking, so he cooks for them Friday night, and come Saturday night, are we going out? Are we calling in food? Okay, you want to go out? Okay, we go out. Kana takwenda out, I open the door, ndovharira door, ovafara, right? Toenda ikoko, bill rakuya, I have to pay. Apa ari kuuya kumba kwangu, anouya nelaundry yake, yeah? Oisa laundry because anogara muapartment, ogeza mbatya dzake, anspiwe. Anosvika pane laundry basket yakazara mbatya. Anoita mbatya dzake, fold them, ogara zvake, arara pasofa achiwacha Netflix. How does that work? Inini kana uchida kuti tiche fair. Then let's go the whole way. Kana taida kuita traditional yacho iyoyo uchida kuti kuvhurira madhoo chikunzira maflowers ndichikwenda newe ndichibhadhara maniki. Expect you to at least do my laundry. Anzi kana abva ipapa aenda on Sunday, I am on ndikuclean mangu, and she was there the whole time. She was watching Netflix. What do you think about that? Because you say, well, I understand what you're saying, because then there has to be an equitable distribution of labor, Mumbai Momo, you can't just expect one person to do that. And he said, but then these are your girls who are mutara and spew and overscanner when you are. And Anika can attack when out and I can chain up with the Beyonce. I can chain up
Slay. You got yourself a slay queen there.
So what's happening next? And I kind of very younger than you, or you girls, is that what's going on?
But that's what I'm saying, Kuti. My DMs, people promise each other a whole lot of things. And again, if you're going to go for the materialistic woman, that's what you're going to get. That's the reality. If you were looking for character, this wouldn't even be a conversation, because anyone with empathy, you wouldn't even need to ask, can you do my laundry? Because right? So to me, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, they're there for themselves. They're there to eat, and you feed, and you continue to feed them. Because to me, that conversation should be, I had an ex-girlfriend who did ABCD, but he's saying this is a current saga. Shamas, you've accepted that, right?
I suppose he's not. I don't think he's following me. I don't think what's up on YouTube. What's up on YouTube? I speak on my programs, but those are some of the scenarios that teenagers and then I was talking to another girl friend of mine who said, I was talking to this guy for the longest time and it sounded like the right guy. I can do something, okay. And a child, yeah, but mother was one mwana and she so later on they were going to go out for the weekend, going to the mountains for the weekend, and then he said, found out he actually is married because mukadzi wake anotogara naye, and then she told me he forgot to tell me that he's married. Honey, he did not forget to do it. You don't do things like that. It's a
big thing to forget.
Look,
I laughed so hard because he said, he forgot to tell me that he's married. I mean, these are the kind of guys we're talking about.
Look, I think guest X had a good point last meeting where he said sometimes we all have our traumas and we bring them into the next relationship. So after going through such an experience as a female, I can understand why when you meet a guy, very aggressive to ask, are you married? Never, and you're doing all your background check, because
it's not aggressive. It's a point.
It's a
Yes,
point.
it's not even a
And it's too common. This is the thing. I
no,
won't even lie. Way too common right now.
Interrogation,
I use interrogation.
No,
This is the
interrogation, I'll
conversation.
be honest with you, because now I don't interrogate what I don't know. Say, oh, makura koyo, so aurora. Like, want to measure, kuti pauri papa, zera rako nezvaunazo. There's
But
no
still,
way you don't have a baby mama.
I don't
That's
want
like the
to. I
first
don't
thing
want
that's
to
bringing
always.
mind.
I don't want basarangu here is to good conversation and right, but not to air. But I think it's a valid point because you know that, like I'm saying, there are all these recycled husbands. That's fine because some are okay. Another marriage in the second, you need to talk about it. And then if a guy is 40, 43, 44, or even a woman, I think it's good to ask it. Are you M1, M2, or mother of one, mother of two, or do you have children? Do you have an ex-wife or whatever? It's important. What else would you be talking about? That, I like your eyes, or how's your mother? No.
But some days women are now lying. That's what I've learned. Because some
men.
No, but some women actually have the child, put the child with their mother, and present themselves as single with no children.
Yeah, I've heard of stories like that. There's a guy who found out Kurora, like the family. He just, I think he went like Kumushakwacho or something by mistake. They weren't expecting him, and he only found out then Kuti she had a child, and they were already like about to get married.
Yeah,
so it happens for sure. I don't doubt that.
It's trauma on both sides is my point, right? That we've been traumatizing each other and damaging each other for so long that when we now go into future relationships or meet other people, automatically we have barriers up and we're not receptive to the love or the genuineness of the other person. And this is also killing us as well. This is why maybe if we go through a conversation, how do we go from dating into marriage? I think there has to be some form of therapy or some form of counseling that needs to be done. That's
this
intense.
Is part of it. That's exactly what it is for us to open up and discuss. As the Miriam and Michelle, it's complicated. And if it's complicated for me, what about
me? But no,
he's in an open marriage.
But we might be some men might be a bit off, but some women knows that because imagine, like we talked about that guy who was about to marry the woman and only finds out a few weeks before that she already has a child. That guy is fallen in love with that girl, right? And he wants
to mentally his wife already.
Yeah, mentally they're married. You know what I mean?
You carry these traumas.
Then you just hurt him like that. Now you're putting him in between a rock and a hard place.
Right? But that's why I say, as a people, we need to work on healing collectively, because again, I'm sure that woman did that because someone did crazy stuff when she told the person she had a child, so
maybe not, but really there is need for a collective effort and to look at it and say, okay, which way are we going? Last week takagumira nyaya yedu yakagumira pasina kunaka, takachingokanda, we are not dating because of this, but then we said, okay, X ndiye voice of reason, okay, that's how it is, but which way are we going? What do we need to do to we cannot continue doing this and DM who is looking for sex and sex 1, sex 2, sex 3. We can't do that. These situations and fluid elements, how do you become exclusive? Makatanga muri fluid marriage, That's really what we are doing here. I would like to. Mangwana is Mother's Day, so we are not coming back. Aside, Muna July, I'm going to come back with Taktaura more with you guys in the diaspora. I want to bring a group of problem Zimbabwe is network and but I'll see if I can get 4 people Zimbabwe dating because everybody I know everybody is going to church but still kune disparity as well. Kune vakawanda nevashoma saka panetsa ipapa vamwe varume vanoti asistiri vashoma todi kungorora vairi then and hence the phenomenon yes, small house. That's another topic for another day. And I also want to bring in those who are not so young. They are a group. I'm happy to go to googling. I'm on my own and the statement anyway, I'm on my own and I'm in my 65 and I'm single and whatever. Kune group rakadaro who would like to date. I mean, just because you're old doesn't mean you're dead. You know what I mean? Everybody wants it to be with somebody. So tichazounzawo iyoyo vari mature. I spoke to a friend of mine who's 68 and he's also single. And he said, I'll be quite happy to. So tinoda kutaura nyaya idzi tichiita chime in, tichishare my ideas. Where are we going wrong? Because somewhere there we'll see kuti pari kunetsa ndepapi. Anditi?
Yes, agreed. I think most of us are saying kuti pame avakuru po avechidiki, right? Vakadzimai vechikuru vachidzidzisawo vachidiki to know your perspective on life, kuti this and this is not the way it is. Vechirume vachidzidzisawo varume kuti no mfana zvakomera musoro now is not really that important in a marriage, right? These things that you're thinking you're looking to coach kwawo muchikocha through the tichibvunzawo ma-questions kwakuru vakuru vachi vice versa toita interactive tichidzidzisana. I think it can help progress this counseling and healing that we need to move forward.
Fabulous.
And I think we also need to increase that discernment, or not just red flags but green flags, because I think we're at a time where the red flags are always number one, like what you don't want, and that's how you don't manifest what you do want, right? So at least if we're sort of like stronger on green flags and we're focusing on like, oh, these are the positives of this person or whatever, I think we can be a bit more empathetic and evolve more.
Okay, X, your final word.
For me, I wouldn't agree with you.
I know.
So I think honesty and transparency is the beginning and the foundation of building the communication between men and women in the dating scene. To remove those, traumatic situations from eventuating from lies. Do you have a husband or wife? Do you have even a complicated history with your own self in relationships? I think that honesty will take our trajectory in a building and not a destructive way.
Fabulous. And nguva dzinotondiona tatosvika 1 hour 12 minutes tichingotaura. I think vese munoti ndinotenda kuti matiteera, and panga pane quite a lot of reaction from the people vanga vachititeera vachinyorawo zvavari kunyora apa zvavanoona kuti zvakamira sei. Anatete sekuru vanodiwa mufunge, anatete sekuru vanodiwa mufunge henyu. Yeah, panoda kuti ndanga ndichida kutanga nemi imimi wacho wari mudating singles achona iyaye. Maybe next time we can bring in another lot, as I said, vari kuZimbabwe, and maybe some people vanogona kuita council vachititaurira who are not so old, too much of an older generation. Inini I'm older generation than ndiri age group yamai wenyu. Yeah. But I think so. I think so. Saka tinokwanisa kukwanisa kutaura tichiti kuona kwatinoita zvakamira zvakadai. And my expectations, kana uri munhu wemurume, what you should expect is this. Varume vedu vatakaroorwawo nawo vakaitawo maproblems echakachakachaka, because vakaretawo matrauma, ndiwo vakatanga iyoyo, ndiwo vakaita maarchitects esmall house iwawo wedu generation yevarume veduyo. Zvakanga zvamboita sei? Vakadzisa tiri vasikana vakanaka, vakachinda, vakakwana, taigona kuenda nawo kumusha, tigona kuita this and that. But they went to small house, and like I said, they are the chief architects. Saka tinenge tichida kuti tichisharewo with younger people kuti if you want to settle, these are the things that you should look at. These are very, very valid things that you should look at if you want to move forward. Ndinoda kukutenda nese manga mchititeera and chiming in yamanga mchita ma questions nemaposes anga mchiposta apa. Shamiso hanzi traumas are there for both sides. Women and men need to normalize having the hard conversations and not take offense and come from a point of building. True, Shami, you're right about that. So I hope I'll be seeing you again. I know you will be seeing you every week. Thank you so much for doing that. Mangwana, we have a special Mother's Day special. We've got 4 people who will be talking about the women who raised them. So celebrating Mother's Day. And I hope next week I'll get back to you. Post up a Facebook on what we'll be talking about. I'm not sure, depends, because my guests and Akamira say, but we're not going to be talking about relationships with Tombo Isap aside to come back, because this is hard stuff going, right? Yeah. Aiwa, moane zwarakanaka, varikumusha, moane mani rakanaka, tokubata imangwana panopakano iwanya indini sangwa dzispiwe kachidza mapfumo.